Hey everybody, it's James here from the Sawyer Family Reviews channel, and it's time for another in the continuing series of DC Collectibles animated figure reviews. We're looking at Batman figure number 2, which makes sense because he's Two-Face. Two-Face from the new Batman Adventures, the second release of the DC Collectibles Batman the Animated Series line. Let's check him out. We'll start with this look at the packaged Two-Face here before we tear him out of there. We've got the new Batman Adventure style packaging, which is the blue card back featuring the silhouettes of Batman, Nightwing, and Robin. The character's name along the side here, figure number 2. We've got the new Batman Adventures logo there, figure packaged, all your little doodads and stuff he comes with. We've got sculpted by Gentle Giant Studios on the side there, which I don't think I mentioned that on Batman's review yesterday. That one was sculpted by Irene Matar. And the back of the card just has the same silhouette with Batman, Robin, and Nightwing. Let's tear him out of there and take a look. All right, we got Two-Face out of the packaging. First of all, let's talk about the hip hole issue. So on my Batman review, I talked about these little hip holes. Let's get close here. See them? These little holes in the front of the hips, little holes along the sides of the knees. So when this line originally started, that was the standard. That was the norm for the first wave. They all had those hip holes, little peg holes in the front, little peg holes along the sides of the knees. Quickly, they changed that. So wave 2 moving forward no longer has these obtrusive holes on the front of the hips and the sides of the knees. They went back and corrected Batman and Catwoman, so you can get those with the hip holes or without. But both Two-Face here and Mr. Freeze never had it corrected. So new Batman Adventures, Two-Face, and new Batman Adventure style Mr. Freeze, you can only get them with the holes. Okay? So that's that out of the way. Let's talk about what all he comes with, and then we'll get into the figure here. So he's got a couple of extra sets of hands, and I'm going to do this a little strangely. I'm knocking stuff over. And then I'm not going to show you pairs. I'm going to show you all the left hands first, because they're all unique. So as you can see, they're sculpted with like scarring and stuff. So these are the scarred left hands. So he's got one that's sort of open, and then he's got one that's made to grip one of the guns. But as you can see, they are sculpted with that detail of being injured and scarred. So then the left hands are his clean hands. He comes packaged with a fisted left hand, but you get the fisted right hand as an extra. And then you get a gun gripping right hand as an extra, because as you can see, the left hand that he's got on, the right hand that he has on the packaging has his coin sculpted into it, which is pretty cool. Doesn't come out. The coin's permanently in the hand, but it is cool that that feature's on there. That way he's always got his coin, because he's always holding his coin. You don't really need the coin to be a separate piece and get lost somewhere. So having a hand with the coin permanently sculpted on it is a pretty cool solution to that. Then he has a couple of guns. He's got a handgun, like a pistol. You can see there. These are kind of cool because they're sort of smoothed out, so they're not like super detailed weapons, so they still look animated. And then the Tommy gun / machine gun here. The gun gripping hands are a little bit tight, though, for these big handles. So you have to kind of squeeze them into there to get them to work. It's worse on the pistol. And I would say, since those blue hands, the scarred hands, are painted, I would put the pistol in the flesh-toned hand, so you don't take a chance of like scraping paint off or stretching out the paint or cracking it or anything like that. I would do Tommy gun in the scarred hand and pistol in the flesh hand, just because it's so big. So he's got those two guns. And he's got a little tiny stopwatch, which you can see in the episode Sins of the Father, which is the Tim Drake origin episode. So it's a black and white faced stopwatch. These are all specific episode specific accessories for Sins of the Father. Then he's got a gas mask, which actually fits on the figure pretty well. You just kind of push it onto his face. Of course, I'm saying that, and then of course it won't go on his face when I actually need it to go on his face. There it goes. So you just kind of push it onto his face. It's pretty cool. And then he comes with a briefcase or a suitcase thing, and these two these two containers that look like old thermoses. That was the plague stuff. These mixed into like a gas or some kind of plague device or something that was going to poison Gotham in that episode. And so those fit in that case really well, which is cool. And then, of course, he's got the stand. Again, I love the turnarounds on the stand itself, but I don't like the execution of the stand. So you've got this one broad piece. It plugs in there. This one's different than the Batman ones in that it has this moving piece that goes onto the two prongs, and then these pieces go like this. It's overly complicated. Like, you don't need all this. You don't need all that. You don't need all these pieces and doodads. This is a doll stand. It's got two pieces. They clip around the waist. That's all you need. You don't need to go crazy with a doll stand. I love this, though. I love this turnaround thing. All right, let's talk about the figure itself and the articulation. I really like the paint job on this. You can kind of see how the light's catching the white side. It almost looks pearlescent in my camera. It doesn't look that way in person as much. You can get a little bit of that on the jacket, but it's really clean. The lines are really clean and nice, which is very important with a split character like Two-Face. I like the blue of the scarred side. I think that matches the animation really well. The head sculpt is really cool. Let's get closer. I'm going to kind of pull this guy up. Look at that. Really cool paintwork inside the mouth. Let me get this off the stand, and then we can talk about the articulation too. But yeah, this head sculpt, man, I like that a lot. Now, we ended up, when we first got this figure, we didn't know that we were going to get the animated series Two-Face. We thought we would eventually. It took a long time, though. It was very much towards the end of the line before we got the animated series style Two-Face. The thing is, though, is that of the villains that got redesigned between the animated series and Batman, the new Batman Adventures, Two-Face didn't go through that much of a change. Him and Harley stayed pretty close to what they looked like before. He's a little thicker up top, he's a little skinnier in the legs, but overall his design is pretty close to what his design is in Batman the Animated Series. So this figure could kind of do double duty in displays for the longest time until there was a Batman the Animated Series version. But again, we have that version now, so he's expensive, but we do have that version now. Let's talk about the sculpt here. Again, he is that new Batman Adventure style, so he does have that thicker top, and then the even skinnier legs than they did in Batman the Animated Series. He's got really, really tiny feet, so you definitely want to have this guy on a figure stand. You can get him to stand, like right now, he's standing up, but those feet are so tiny. It's a real balancing act. Articulation-wise, he does have a swivel where those little tiny feet enter into his pant leg. He's got a single-jointed knee that does have a good range of movement. His hips do swivel back and forth, and there's a good amount of movement there. And then they hinge out, and they're ratcheting, which is nice. They kind of hold those poses. He does have a waist swivel, but it's restricted by the jacket, and the jacket actually feels kind of softer right there. I'm not really sure. I think it's a separate overlay piece, but I can't tell for sure. But it is a little bit softer than the rest of the plastic. You can see it kind of moves out when you move the waist. He's got shoulders that hinge out, and then they rotate, but he's got that wide-shouldered look, so you got to hinge those out some when you're doing that spin around. And then he's got elbows that hinge back and forth, and they swivel around. This one's kind of sticking on me, so let's try this one. That one is also sticking on me. There it goes. So they do swivel. They're tight on this guy, though. They do swivel around, though. And then on the wrists, all they do is swivel. There is no hinge movement on these wrists. They just swivel around this time, and I think it is because they are so thin as they enter the figure. But we would see that same feature on some of the females where they would hinge, if I'm not mistaken, where they would still hinge even though they swiveled. And then he's got a ball-jointed head. It's mostly just rotation, though. You get a little tiny bit of movement, but that's about it. Overall, I'm going to put him back on a stand before I start dropping him. Oh, let's get the height. I almost forgot to get the height. That's something I will likely forget a lot of times. He looks like he's just about right at 6 inches at the top of his head. Again, these are built on the 6-inch scale, whereas most of the DC Collectibles stuff was built on the 7-inch scale. This is a cool figure. Two-Face is a great character, one of the big baddies of the show. The version from Batman the Animated Series is quite expensive now. I don't think the new Batman Adventures one goes for anywhere near that. So if you're just looking for a Two-Face to put in your display for the animated series and you don't want to spend a lot of money on the other version, at least you can get this one on the shelf, and it's pretty close to the design of the animated series. All right, I think that about wraps it up for this guy. We're going to cook right along. The next figure up is Mr. Freeze number 3. One of my favorite figures of the first wave because he does come with a lot of stuff. He's really loaded down. I do love how many accessories this Two-Face comes with, though, and that they're all specific to Sins of the Father, which is a really cool episode for the new Batman Adventures. And after that, we've got Catwoman, and we've made it through the first wave. All right? I'm going to stick with this. Hopefully you guys stick with me, too. Subscribe to the videos if you enjoy them. Like, notify, all that stuff. See you guys next time. Bye.